In a unanimous verdict, Britain's highest court has ruled that the legal definition of woman under the Equality Act 2010 refers to biological sex. The case stems from a Scottish challenge on boardroom representation quotas, but its impact stretches nationwide. The 5 judges sided with the campaign group for Women Scotland, warning that recognising gender identity over biological sex could affect the single-sex spaces. The court clarified that trans women with gender recognition certificates are not classified as women under sex-based protections. Now, these are the images of women's rights activists who celebrated the verdict outside of the United Kingdom Supreme Court in London.
Today, the judges have said what we always believed to be the case, that women are protected by their biological sex, that sex is real, and that women can now feel safe that services and spaces designated for women are for women, and we are enormously grateful to the Supreme Court for this ruling.
The Deputy President of the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom said that giving trans women equal status under sex protections could result in greater rights than biological women.
That the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex. But we counsel against reading this judgment as a triumph of one or more groups in our society at the expense of another. It is not.
However, the court also stressed that trans people remain protected under different provisions, including gender reassignment discrimination. The verdict has added fuel to an already polarized debate on gender rights across the United Kingdom. So this, of course, is a significant women where the British top court has said that trans women are not women, and the court has warned that Women's Equality Act means biological female. This is basically what the British Supreme Court has said. And to give us more details on this, we're joined on this broadcast by our correspondent Ollie Barrett, who's joining us live from London. Ollie, give us a sense as to why this particular judgment is so significant for women's rights in Britain.
Well, certainly women's rights campaigners had been making the case in this long-running legal battle that actually legislation that was introduced in Scotland to try and safeguard, try and make sure that women were represented on public sector boards, campaigners said was actually skewing against women's rights because included in those quotas were transgender women. Now, that had led to a long-running legal battle in Scotland, which eventually came to the Supreme Court for this final judgment, and the Supreme Court has now ruled unanimously that it does believe that the definition of a woman is based on biological sex. So that does mean that the initial legislation in Scotland was effectively being ruled against by the UK's Supreme Court, but it also has wide-ranging impacts far beyond that as well, and you can see that in some of the reaction that we've been getting today from the UK government, for example, saying that it believes that this provides clarity and confidence. The UK government says that confidence will be for women, but also for service providers such as hospitals, refuges and sports clubs. And the UK government goes on to say that single-sex spaces are protected in law and will be protected by this government. And indeed, those single-sex spaces is what many of the campaigners that were backing this legal challenge at the Supreme Court had been worried about. Now, many trans rights campaigners have expressed alarm and concern at this ruling, but as you were saying, the Supreme Court judgment did make it clear that transgender people do have protections under the Equality Act of the UK of 2010. But in doing so, making it clear in its judgment that the Equality Act of 2010 is very clear as well, that the definition of a woman is based on biological sex.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Ollie Barrett, for joining us with all those details there.